Hello everyone. Today we will continue with the topic social, cultural, and environment. This is a part of international business, so we'll proceed. Social and cultural environment. Social or cultural environment encompassing the religious aspects, language, customs, traditions, and beliefs, tastes, and preferences, social stratification, social stratification, social institutions, buying and consumption habits, etc., are all important factors for business. What is liked by the people of one culture may not be liked by those of some other culture. One of the most important reasons for the failure of a number of companies in foreign market is their inability to understand the cultural environment of these markets and to suitably formulate their business strategies. Many companies modify their products and or promotion strategies to suit the tastes and preferences or other characteristics of the population of the different countries. Significant differences in the tastes and preferences may exist even within the same country, particularly when the country is very vast, populous, and multicultural like India. For example, while Nescafe has about three-fourths share of the Mumbai market, its share is very small in Bangalore and insignificant in Chennai. Brew, which makes the largest chunk of the Chennai and Bangalore markets, has a very low market share in Mumbai. It may be noted that while Nescafe advertisement projects an international cosmopolitan image of the product, the brew advertisement has as its backdrop a South Indian, particularly Tamil Nadu culture. A number of MNCs, including Kellogg's, Reebok, Lacoste, Philips, Procter& and Gamble, Hindustan Lever, Nestle, Amway, and so on, have realized that it makes business sense to adapt to the Indian taste and preferences and business conditions. They have launched new product forms or got into new categories relevant to the Indian market. Culture, which is very intriguing and complex factor, is often a very critical component of business environment. Proper understanding of cultural dimensions is very important for product developments, promotion, business negotiations, human resource management of social and political environment, etc. An important problem is that several dimensions of culture are not easily explicit. A company which sets out to do business in an unfamiliar cultural environment may therefore encounter several problems if proper homework is not done. Many multinational businessmen agree that cultural differences are the most significant and troublesome variables encountered by multinational company. The failure of managers to comprehend fully these disparities has led to most international business blunders. Meaning and elements of culture. As Geert Hofstede, a noted Dutch writer and academic, has nicely put it, culture is the software of the mind, a social programming that runs the way we think, act, and perceive ourselves and others. In other words, your brain is simply the hardware and runs the cultural programming. The implication is that culture is not innate, it is learned behavior and hence can be changed. Kluckhohn has defined culture very simply as the total life way of people. As Mitchell observes, culture is a set of learned core values, beliefs, standards, knowledge, morals, laws, and behaviors shaped by people, individuals, and societies that determines how an individual acts feels, and views oneself and others. A social culture is passed from generation to generation, and aspects such as language, religion, customs, and laws are interrelated. That is, a society's view of authority, morals, and ethics will eventually manifest itself in how an individual does business, negotiates a contract, or deals with a potential business relationship. Understanding the cultural context, and mindset of a potential foreign business partner or competitor can help in developing strategy for negotiation and deal making. What once seemed mysterious may become more predictable and can ultimately be used to your advantage. Culture consists of both material culture and non material culture. Material culture involves man made things, example, automobile, television, telephone, etc., and man made alternations in the environment. Non material culture includes factors such as language, ideals, beliefs, values, and music. Culture includes at least three elements, namely knowledge and beliefs, ideals and preferences. Knowledge and beliefs. The knowledge and beliefs refer to a people's prevailing notions of reality. They include myths and metaphysical beliefs as well as scientific realities. As Rose remarks, one of the features of culture in general that is of special sociological interest is the shared quality of belief system. People who share a given culture tend to take a hostile attitude towards those within their mindset who cannot or will not accept conventional definitions of fact. Ideals. Ideals refer to social norms which define what is expected, customary, right, or proper in a given situation. Norms are enforced by sanctions, that is, by rewarding the right behavior and punishing the wrong behavior. Folkways and mores are important aspects of every culture. Folkways are norms of proper behavior, like the proper way to greet friend, that are informally enforced. But more is of norms of obligatory behavior considered vital to the welfare of the group. Preferences. Preferences refer to society's definition of those things in life which are attractive and unattractive as objects of desire. Preferences may differ between cultures. Interestingly enough, the judgments of the idea or the proper do not always correspond to our judgments of pleasant or enjoyable. A case in point is the temptations not proper but desirable. All the things I really like to do are immoral, illegal, or fattening, said Alexander Woolcott. A culture tends to provide the standards of taste in specific lines of human activity. Taste, in the most liberal sense, varies greatly with the food consumption preferences of different cultures, but there is also a taste in clothing, housing, and sexual practices, and in an endless variety of possession and activities. What is tasteful in one culture may be highly distasteful in another. Cultural characteristics are very important in the formulation of pragmatic business strategies. The cost of ignoring customs, traditions, taboos, tastes, and preferences, etc., can be very high. For example, in Italy, a US company that set up a cone processing plant found that its marketing efforts failed because Italians thought of corns as a pig food. The company brews a variety of instant coffee to satisfy different national tastes. Organization of culture. The term organization of culture refers to the social culture and integration of traits, complexes, and patterns that make up the cultural system. The cultures are organized or integrated does not mean that every single item of each culture is neatly and precisely integrated with everything else. It means rather that it is normal for the parts to be somewhat organized. and the culture traits receive their significance and meaning out of their relation to the rest of the culture. The social structure, the web of organized relationships among individuals and groups that define their mutual rights and liabilities, together with traits, complexes, and patterns, reflects the organization of a culture. Satisfaction, that is differentiation based on criteria such as age, sex, caste, occupation, education, income, and so on, is an important aspect of social structure and cultural organization. Each stratum is assigned or suppose expected to have a certain rank or position, role or limitations, etc. in a social setup. It is important to recognize such roles and ranks for effective negotiation, promotion, etc. According to McCleaver and Page, institutions are established forms or conditions of procedure characteristic of group activity. The group which performs these standardized actions has been termed by them an association. According to Byzance and Byzance, according to Byzance and Byzance, institutions are clusters of norms organized and established for the pursuit of some need or activity of a social group, supported by the group's knowledge, beliefs, and values, as well as by the meaningful aspects of material culture. The important common institutions of modern cultures are the economic system, the political administrative system, the educational system, religion, family, expressionistic, express, expressionistic, aesthetic, and recreational institutions, etc. Such institutions have been established to meet society's common needs of a biological, social, sociological, and psychological, economic, and political nature. The type and nature of institutions reflect the common goals, aspirations, and the ways of achieving them. Definition and regulation of roles, positions, and interrelationships, etc., of the individuals and subgroups, and groups and overall organization of the culture. Culture traits, complexes, and patterns also help us to understand the organization of a culture. A trait is a unit of observation. It may be a unit of normative behavior like shaking hands or saying namaste, or it may be an articraft like culture objects such as wooden bowl. As Lumby observes, a culture trait is the simplest acquired material or activity pattern known, and these traits are the bricks, so to speak, of which the whole culture of the society is constructed. Most traits are related to others and fit into larger meaningful wholes called trait complexes. For example, the various traits involved in greeting and receiving a guest form a trait complex. A complex, thus, in a system of interrelated traits that function together as a unit, and a number of complexes in turn come together to form a culture pattern. A culture pattern is a specific and enduring system of trait complexes. The organization of culture may thus be looked upon from that point of view as a meaningful integration of different traits into interrelated complexes and complexes, in turn into patterns. The term culture pattern is sometimes used to designate the overall organization of the culture, but sometimes it is used to refer to major segments of the culture like the religious pattern of a particular ethnic group. The culture traits, complexes, and pattern differ from community to community. This indicates some of the complexities involved in multicultural business. Cultural adaptation. The term cultural adaptation refers to the manner in which a social system or an individual fits into the physical or social environment. The social system may be a small group, such as the family, or large collectivity, such as an organization, or even total society, like a tribal society. Adaptation is essential for survival. The type of clothing, food, and dwelling suitable for the climate and climatic and weather conditions are forms of adaptations. Cultural adaptations can be hikes by modifying modifying our energy policies and intensifying oil exploration, developing alternative source of energy and restricting oil consumption. Humanity adapts to contagious diseases by immunization. Adaptation is relevant at the individual level as well. An individual who joins or accepts a new religion has to adapt himself to the beliefs and the ways of that religion. A worker who becomes a member of a trade union has to fit into the objectives, rules, and the ways of the union. A woman who lives with her husband's family would have to fit into that family's culture. An Indian who settles in the US and has to adjust to the social and physical environment there. One who joins a new organization will have to adapt to the new environment. As McLever and Page remark, every difference or environment means a difference in our habits, our ways of living. On the other hand, our habits or ways of living in so far as they differ create for us different environment, a different selection within it, and the different accommodation to accommodate it, and and a different accommodation to it. Through a process of constant selection and constant adaptation, the moving equilibrium of life is maintained. It is often necessary to know the process and nature of the cultural environment for a successful formulation of business strategies. For example, while introducing new ideas, techniques, products, while segmenting the market, while formulating the product and promotion mix strategies, one should consider the extent to which different categories of consumers adapt to the new things or environment, and the factors favoring and disfavoring adaptations, and also the general attitude of the society to the new ideas and environment, and their impact on different categories of consumers. Besides, realizing the appropriateness of adapting the business strategies to the requirements of the cultural environments. Cultural shocks. Environment changes sometimes produce cultural shock, a feeling of confusion, insecurity, and anxiety caused by the strangeness of the new environment. For example, if a youngster born or brought up in a large city is posted to a bank office in a remote village, he may experience a cultural shock. Similarly, a villager may experience a cultural shock when he takes up a job in a large modern company in a far away metropolitan city or foreign country. They may, however, to adapt to the new culture in due course or if they want to survive. Executives and other employees on foreign assignments may experience a cultural shock to align to alien environments. Sometimes the organization itself may suffer shock. Proper homework to understand the culture can help avoid the shock. This also highlights the importance of the selection of suitable people for foreign markets. Cultural transmission. A very important characteristic of culture is its transmissive quality. The elements of culture are transmitted among the members of the culture from one generation to the next and to the new members admitted into the culture. Some of the aspects of a culture may be transmitted to other cultures also. The transmissive quality of a culture makes it cumulative. Every generation inherits a stock of cultural elements, many of which have been accumulated over a long period of time. As time goes on, cultures accumulate more techniques, ideas, products, and skills. It is also quite obvious that certain old elements are dropped as new ideas and traits are acquired. Cultural accumulation, facilitated by cultural transmission, enables man to build upon the achievement of the past. Many cultural behaviors are handed down by one's parents, teachers, and other elders. The reference groups play an important role in handling down new traits and ideas. Some cultural behaviors are, however, handed up to the elders. It is not uncommon to come across elders in imitating or adopting some of the new traits of the youngsters, who are the trendsetters. Cultural transmission is not only downward and upward. A lot of transmission takes place among contemporaries too. Example styles of dress, recreational fads, reading and learning habits, political, social, and economic views. These are often transmitted among contemporaries. Social transmission thus takes place horizontally as well as vertically. Cultural transmission takes place by means of symbolic communication. A symbol is any sign, signal, or word that conveys a meaning. The great importance of language in cultural transmission is quite clear. Literature, film, TV, and some other electronic gadgets, social institutions, advertising and marketing techniques, and so on play a very important role in cultural transmission. Transmission also facilitates cultural diffusion, that is, spread of cultural elements from one place to another. Cultural transmission and diffusion are easy in culture with high educational levels and a well organized communication system. An effective communication system and high educational levels facilitate socioeconomic change, though better through better cultural transmission and diffusion. For new ideas and innovations are easily and quickly transmitted, diffused, and absorbed in such a culture. In the context of the generally low literacy rates in India, government has realized the importance of the media such as film, TV, radio in transmitting information such as better agricultural practices and techniques, market information, the concept and importance of family planning, and so on. The nature and process of cultural transmission and diffusion in a society are important to business decision making. For example, to formulate a promotional policy for a product, a service, or an idea, it is important to identify the relevant elements of transmission, to evaluate the relative effectiveness of alternative communication media, to identify the reference group and the extent of their influence, to identify the channel of influence on the reference groups, and so on. Cultural conformity. Individuals in a culture tend either to conform to the natural cultural norms or to deviate from them. If the culture endures as it is, most people would conform to the norms. As Inkel's observes, the social order depends on the regular and adequate fulfillment of the role obligations incurred by the incumbents of the major status positions in social system. It follows that most important process in society is that which ensures that people do indeed meet their religion role obligation. A student who abides by the rules of his school discipline, does his homework promptly, and studies properly in is conforming to his role obligation. Similarly, an employee who works properly is conforming to his role obligation, and an employee who strikes work for a reasonable cause in response to a strike called by the union is also conforming to his role as a member of the union. When the individual has incorporated within himself the knowledge and appropriate skills necessary to the fulfillment of a role, and when he accepts the value or appropriateness of the action, sociologists speak of his having internalized the role and its psychological underpinning. Such internalization helps achieve cultural conformity. The knowledge of the nature and extent of cultural conformity and deviance will sometimes be helpful in business decision making. If a society is by and large characterized by blind conformity, it would be very difficult to market new revolutionary ideas, including products and techniques, in such a society. Special efforts may be required in such a society to change the attitudes of the people in favor of unconventional ideas. It is also important to understand the extent and nature of the snowballing effects of initial deviations in society. Cultural deviances sometimes provide excellent opportunities for market penetration by new products and brand positioning. In several cases, it was the rebellious attitude that led to the acceptance of a product. For example, in England and Japan, the younger generation took up the coffee drinking in order to defy their tea drinking parents. Cultural lag. The cultural lag thesis put forward by William F. Ogborn says that various parts of the modern culture do not change at the same rate, and that since there is a correlation and interdependence of parts, a rapid change in one part of a culture requires readjustments through other changes in various correlated parts of that culture. These readjustments are often difficult, if not impossible, to make because of variety of factors ranging from ignorance to active resistance. Technological changes call for adaptive changes in non material culture, which is inherently conservative. The cultural lag thus places constraint in the scope of social change through technological development. For example, in some cultures, social inertia and religious sentiments come in a way of population control, though several methods are available for birth control. The important factors that contribute to cultural lag include ignorance, wrong notions, conservatism, sentimental factors, political factors, and vested interests. Different markets may be at different levels of readiness to accept a new product or idea. To successfully market a new idea, including product, service, technique, it is necessary to identify factors causing the lag and to overcome them by taking appropriate measures. It would be a blunder to introduce a product to a market which is not ready to adopt it. So that's our episode on culture and cultural environment, and we are not done yet. We have the second episode on this particular topic. We'll continue it in the next narration. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.